Welcome back, Soul Tribe. Today, I'm excited beyond belief. You may not know this, but from when I began this podcast, I was keen to ensure the Soul Tribe community grows with both awakened men and women. And of course, we are all called the Divine Feminines on this podcast, but we honor the fact that we hold both masculine and feminine energy within us. Now, I familiarize myself with being the Divine Feminine, and I'm aware of both the masculine and feminine within me. On my journey, I've tended to meet females that have been awakening, and I was keen to find awakening masculines that could align and join the conversation. I've been curious and I've asked the divine for this alignment. I put the intention out, and so that we could bring a fuller perspective to the community and to those that are on this journey. And the divine answered my intention in divine timing, because I am so pleased and honored and grateful that today I have the wonderful and wise Justin Tristao. He's also referred to as the divine masculine. And when I saw that on his Instagram page, I was like, I found him. That's the guy I need. So Justin is based out in California, West Coast, US. So he's on the other side of the world from me, but he's very close with me right now in this moment that we're sharing. And he's experienced a journey worth sharing because it's one of empowerment, encouragement, and inspiration. He leads talks, breathwork sessions, and guides both men and women to finding their true alignment and soul's mission in this journey here on earth. So with that being said, welcome, Justin. Thank you so much for being here today.
Wow. That was such a beautiful intro, Stephanie. Thank you so much for expressing your heart in such a beautiful way. That was really admirable and so honorable for me to receive in my heart from a divine feminine, from a beautiful woman like yourself. And yeah, you really just pierced through my heart in a really beautiful way through your language and through that divine poetry. So I appreciate that intro. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for answering those whispers in your heart to almost manifest this specific moment in this specific chat. In such a divine way. It feels we're exactly where we're supposed to be at this moment. So I appreciate you so dearly.
Oh, thank you, Justin. Heart to heart, I appreciate you. And I even said to myself, this is probably the shortest lead time in prep for a podcast episode I've ever done. But I've felt so divinely guided that it will be magnificent. The conversation will flow. It doesn't really need much preparation because it's something I've been hoping and manifesting for some time. And we're here now in this sacred space where we can share wisdom, experience, and insight. So thank you for having me and thank you for being here.
Yes, such an honor. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing on social media and for these podcasts, and just such an honor to be in your presence. So I'm excited for a divine dance through language, so appreciate it.
I love your choice of words, by the way. Your posts are fire. Like you just hit on the mark every time. And that's what really gravitated me to your energy. I was like, not only like someone can call themselves a divine masculine, someone that's awakening. And who are we to judge that they are? But, I guess through your words and through what you do on your channel, it definitely shows that, hey, I'm here to encourage. I'm here to support. I'm here to enlighten through my own enlightenment. And that light shines bright, Justin. And I really appreciate that light of yours. So it's beaming from West Coast.
Yeah. I appreciate it. And yeah, I think I get that. I get that reflection a lot, and I'm so humbled for that continuous reflection into my being, because it was never that way. It's been a long time coming for me to have that deep inner trust in my own divine expression, in my words, in my story, and my truth. And I really do feel as if I've been attuned to this natural sense of energy, almost attuned to the subtle is what we would like to call it. And I've always had that attunement, deep within my being. It wasn't grounded. I wasn't sure what to do with it. So, one of the most common reflections I get is like, how do you know how to say what you said at the specific time that I needed to hear it? And it's just such a divine reflection, because I feel as if that's just me attuning back to my heart, to my divine essence of the whole, and we all have that connection to this natural ebb and flow of life. It's just about trusting in our hearts again, trusting in our intuition, trusting in that divine flow. So it's really, really beautiful. So I appreciate that reflection.
Yeah, definitely divine flow. And the topic of this episode, but calling it the divine masculine, just felt so right for me. I just, every time I think about an episode and what to call it, I was like, it's clear, the divine masculine. And the reason why and the motivation behind that, and I just want to level set for the audience, is because from the divine feminine side, from the female side, we've been going through our journey, and it, like I said, from a personal experience, I've not met many awakened men. I have, but I haven't in the way I've come across you and what you talk about. And I thought, wow, this is so like insightful to be able to connect and to get, a conversation, insight, wisdom, and understand where you're coming from. Because I think you can also act as a true representation for the masculine collective in many ways. And also for the masculines that are awakening, I sometimes feel that they're more shy than the feminines. And I don't want to like judge or label, but maybe they feel like they are awakening, but they want to do it in their kind of their own, closed space, or they don't talk about it as overtly. They're not ready to. Maybe some of them are, and some are just on that trajectory and they're going to get there. So that's why titling this episode The Divine Masculine, I think, can help both the females and males in the collective. And of course, we embody the masculine energy, each and every one of us. And so I wanted to just throw this one out there just before we get started to ask you, how did this all come about for you? Because you are so aligned. Like I said before, what you say, how you say it, the energy you bring, it's magnificent. But I know that there must have been a journey to get to this point, and you're still on a journey. So just wanted to know more about that.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for bringing that into the space. I mean, it's quite interesting when people kind of invite this to be spoken on, because I feel like my journey has been so vast, to pinpoint everything into one. I still quite struggle with doing that. But it all started for me when I went through what I like to call a dark night of the soul. And a dark night of the soul is what people, that's a kind of a saying in spiritual spaces, where it's just this really dark time in which you're trying to find the light again, and what has been true for me in my journey and in my life is the fact that for us to truly awaken, for us to truly become realized, there has to be this dark period. There's always this common thread of someone going through a dark night, or multiple dark nights to then realize who they truly are. And for me, that was the case in my journey. It really started when I was about 19 years old, when I began to experience, what most people would label anxiety, or depression. And there was one thing that I wrote sometime recently, it was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. And I said, the new form of awakening is going to be through depression and anxiety, and I believe that to be true at the core of my being, because little did I know, what was happening at my body was I was beginning to realize these more subtle things that I was moving through, and my body didn't know how to ground it in. So, for me in my journey, it really started with a deep level of anxiety and depression, in the sense of, I didn't really know what my purpose was at some point, and for those that follow me know that I'm pretty open about me speaking towards the fact that, it got so dark for me at some time that I really contemplated not even wanting to be alive anymore, and I know for some people that are listening to this, they may resonate with that. A lot of the times that I share that in my retreats and in my in-person events, I just see tears flowing throughout the people that are in front of me. And it speaks to the depth of what's happening right now at a collective level. And for me, I feel as if I was being prepared for something special, but at the time it was so deep, it was so dark. I was in such a deep, dark void is what it felt like, that I just couldn't even see the light at the end of the tunnel that I was going to get out of it, and And it was from that point forward that my life began to shift. You know, I began to ask deeper questions like, what's my purpose here? What am I here to do? You know, these deeper inner inquiries that I was beginning to contemplate in my innermost being, which then allowed me to gain more clarity on life, you know, and what I'm here to do, who I'm here to be, what I'm here to express, you know. But it was only through my dark nights, you know, that I began to awaken deeper into the answers to those questions, you know. And I say that to be true. You know, I really do feel as if a lot of us have to experience the darkest nights to understand what we are and who we are and what our purpose is.
I resonate with the dark night of the soul. I would have never thought that I would have hit some kind of anxiety or depression. But for me, so I find it really fascinating because you said at the age of 19, wow. You know, at the age of 19, I was just getting into trouble or seeing boys or whatever, doing everything your parents don't want you to do, right? I was so far from that. But for me, it happened much later in my 30s. And it was, I think that in itself was quite scary because I've already lived quite a bit of life. And I didn't know that it was a dark night of the soul. It just felt really, what I resonated with is that it felt really lonely. It felt like no one could understand what I was going through. And I needed to be alone. And I needed to try and figure it out alone. And I was like, will I ever get out of this? Like, like a capsule. I was like almost in this capsule. And I was like, it feels weird here. And I personally was having a lot of dreams. I was sleeping a lot. And they, you know, that's where I think that where you could relate it to some depression, right? Where they say that you can sleep a lot, you don't want to leave the bed. I did want to get up, don't get me wrong. But yeah, there's that point where you're kind of like, yeah, it really intertwines with the whole anxiety and depression. And I think I asked myself, I said, how many people out there are going through what they think is depression, but it's actually more of an awakening? And if they knew that, and they knew that, okay, I'm going through this dark period to then find my light and my purpose, how empowering would that be?
That's so powerful. And that's what began to become true and illuminated in my life through my process, was the fact that truth that you just spoke began to become real for me. You know, like there was this piece of me inside of that capsule that you speak of, or that void, where I knew, you know, there was this moment in time where, you know, for me in my personal story, when I was going through that deep depression and the anxiety and that dark void, the dark cloud that was over me, you know, from the outside looking in, everyone thought that I had the perfect life. You know, I was extremely successful in my business. I was extremely joyous. I was extremely you know, the mask was the poker face was great, you know? And that's even quite interesting to note, because that's truly, I think that's what happens to a lot of people, is the fact that we feel the necessity to mask these things. And this goes back to the masculine, you know, is the fact that me as a man, I was never taught to be vulnerable. I was never taught to be open about my feelings. I was never taught that crying and these things that I was going through was the right thing to do. You know, like that wasn't manly for me. And I feel like that's why I'm such a huge advocate of honoring the feminine processes, because to truly become a man, a divine masculine, or a man that embodies his highest essence, we must be initiated through the feminine. You know, what does the feminine mean in this aspect? It means to be softened into your own heart. You know, it means to allow yourself to be vulnerable with these ebbs and flows of life. You know, nothing's always going to be this rah, heightened state of goals and accomplishing things. And, you know, life is feminine. You know, this earth is feminine. What's interwoven in our bodies is deeply feminine. It has its ebbs and flows. It has its natural currents, its summers, its winters. And I think as a man, that's why it's so difficult for us to find this deeper level of connectivity and alignment that most people may feel in me, is because we're so far off on the right-hand logical path, and we just have lost this deeper sense of the natural rhythm of life, you know, and that requires us to honor the ups and the downs, you know. But as a man, we're just taught to honor the ups. So at the time when I was going through these quote unquote downs,
Yeah.
You know, I thought that something was wrong with me, and I thought that I had to make more money. I thought that I had to become more successful. I thought that I had to gain more followers. I thought that I had to do this and show up that way as a man. And that only brought me into a deeper, darker hole.
Wow.
That only allowed me to feel even more alone, even more, even more depressed, you know, as a man. So I think those are important threads that were going through me as a man in my awakening, was that I just didn't feel like there was anyone that was relating to me. And as a man, what goes through our minds is the fact that, so let's just close off then. No one understands us,
Yeah.
you know? But the main thing that I'd love to just throw in there as a seed is the fact that I remember the day and the time that my life changed, you know? And it was Christmas Eve about 4 or 5 years ago. And no one knew what I was going through. No one knew, not one soul on this earth knew that I was struggling with depression, that I was struggling with anxiety, that I was struggling with not wanting to live anymore, you know, the suicidal thoughts and everything that came along with that. And there was this day, Christmas Eve, where I knew that it was my time to open my heart up to the people that were close to me. And I pulled out my iPhone one day and I started writing just a bunch of messages to my family, preparing me to open up about what has been going on inside of me. And that was a huge step for me, you know. And I remember Christmas Eve, we had this, you know, normally we just open presents and it's just fun time. And, you know, this time I didn't buy my family presents. And they came to me last and they're like, you know, where's the presents, you know, or like, you know, what's wrong type of thing. And they knew they knew what was, something was off, you know?
Yeah.
So then I get up and I just tell them, you know, I have to express something to you guys that I've been hiding from for a while. And I went from A to Z about what was happening to me these last few years. And it was just this beautiful process where I viscerally felt an elephant being lifted off of my shoulders, because for the first time I was allowing myself to be seen. I was allowing myself to be heard as a man. I was allowing myself to be vulnerable. And the things that happen in those spaces, when you allow yourself to cry, when you allow yourself to express your emotions, when you allow yourself to be yourself, like holding nothing back, you know, it was the most I've ever felt alive in my entire life, you know. And that was a huge initiation process when I allowed myself to be vulnerable, you know. So I think that's an important aspect of my journey that I knew was a stepping stone for me to gain a larger clarity on my purpose and who I am as a man, you know, as a human.
That's truly courageous. And I really feel it in my heart because, you know, when I think of the male energy in my family and the men in my family, I've never really once seen them cry. I feel that they have probably come from, you know, the narrative and the upbringing, and it's not their fault, but it's been, you know, instilled over generation to be strong, to be the warrior. And don't get me wrong, the masculine does have strength in those physical senses, and they are practical and they can be the action taker. But like you said, without that complementing feminine energy to bring the balance, to bring the ebb and the flow, to be vulnerable, to have that open heart, he becomes distorted in a masculine energy. And our world, if we see our world and how our world turns and how it operates, is very much on this distorted masculine energy. And, you know, I'm not taking bad kind of accounts of it. Like we are where we are. We've had some great advances in technology and development and the way the world has developed in such great ways because of action and making grand decisions and inventions, the doing. But our earth has also suffered from not allowing the earth to breathe, not allowing the earth to feel the feminine. And that then the earth and Mother Gaia is affected. And likewise, so are we, because we are part of the earth. And it's funny because, so it's so interesting because the men in my family are not where you are, Justin. So for me as a feminine that's awakening, the men in my family don't get me. And I feel their pain of their mask so much more now, because back then, when I wasn't awakening, I'd get frustrated by them, by their distortion. And I was in my distortion, and it'd only create this tension and these walls between us. And likewise with a partnership, if I was dating someone or married, there was the same friction that would occur. I didn't understand it. And then I think about the feminine, right? And, the challenges the females have had over the years. But I think what's not helped is that although we've asked for liberation, although we've asked to be recognized, we've done a lot of this through masculine movement. And so then our feminine collective are distorted. We're unbalanced. I found in myself that I am more heavier on the masculine side of doing and action taking, and just always having the control and wanting things to turn out a certain way, that I didn't even really harness the true feminine energy within my womb, within the center of my universe, because I should be able to emanate that energy even more so to the masculine, and for that to be reciprocated in magical ways. And I was completely just on one side of my masculine and not paying attention to my feminine. So I feel that the feminines, although, it's so interesting. I feel like the masculine and feminine, male and female, we have one very strong thing in common. I think our world has become hugely distorted towards the masculine energy. And all of us as a collective, no matter gender, are trying to find our way back to balance. And on that journey back to balance is our connection to our feminine energy. And it's truly that connection to Mother Earth. So that's how because I wanted to just say that, because it's so, but I feel, okay, so many things I want to say, but I feel like, okay, it might be easier for the feminine to go down that journey and awaken now and pull away from distorted masculine tendencies and find the balance. But for the masculine, I think it's double hard, because like you said, the mask, I think, is so much more thicker, because they're carrying this ancestral lineage of a mask. Like, they're not just wearing one mask. They're like wearing 7, 8, 9, 10 masks of all their great grandparents. That's what I feel. So I feel like, when you mentioned that elephant, I actually feel like you were carrying the elephant of so many generations there.
Wow. Yeah, that's so powerful. And it's quite interesting for those that may have followed my journey for a while, and just kind of being more open and transparent about that, is the fact that I've viscerally felt the ancestral baggage of the masculine wounding, and it's deep. It's dark. There's a lot of grief there. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of hurt, and it's, I've felt myself through my own spiritual, and this is where I kind of get a little bit more mystical, but like it was a mystical process for me to go through these deeper initiations into my own physical bodies, into my own emotional memories, into my own mental thoughts, but they're like you mentioned, they're ancestral, and I think that that's such a deep aspect of this healing process, is taking on the wounding of the whole, because that's really what's happening at this moment. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of wounding when it comes down to the masculine side. So it's deep. Definitely is really, really deep.
Yeah. And I also came into my own sort of confrontation of the masculine energy in my family, that as a feminine, I'm healing, because I think one of the first relationship a woman has with a man is with her father. That's the first man you ever love. And for a boy, his first love is his mother. And I think this is where it all comes down to. It's our initial relationship with our mother and our father, and finding in that relationship, what is it that we need to express, open up, heal? Were we not heard? Did we feel like we couldn't express our emotions? Culturally, there's some cultures, and even in mine, like why are you crying for? Don't let me give you a reason to cry, things like that you get told. You get told to silence yourself because good behavior is a silent child. Surely not. Mm. So a lot of traditions, ways of raising kids. And I don't think my parents did a bad job. They just did what they knew best. And now we're here, Justin, and we know a whole lot better. We can make so much change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to kind of revert back to what you're saying, just in relationship to the father and the mother, and being that this topic is really wrapped around the divine masculine in this essence, I think it's important for me to note, like even my own personal relationship with my father and how he was raised in the beliefs and the patterning that I began to take on myself, and I actually just had a beautiful conversation with my father synchronistically yesterday about these things. And the one thing that he struggled with, and this is where I think the disconnect happens, a big disconnect with the masculine and the feminine, specifically male and female, is the fact that us men have been so far from learning how to properly communicate. Proper communication in a grounded way of allowing yourself to communicate your feelings, your emotions, what you're maneuvering through is extremely huge in becoming an embodied man, and an embodied woman. Of course, communication goes both ways, but I feel as if, just from a male perspective on my father's end, is the fact that he never knew how to properly communicate to my mother or to his children, which therefore left him feeling a deeper sense of like, it's almost just, that mask. It's like, I feel what you feel in your family is like, you feel that hidden, almost like baggage in their bodies, that it's just so suppressed down that they're holding all of that down. And it's a really icky feeling to almost energetically feel into. And it's like, they want to express themselves. They just haven't been properly explained or had the proper reference point to do so, to be that example for them to express themselves. And when a man allows himself to express his feelings and his emotions, that clears up so much vitality. It clears up so much energy for him to then penetrate the world, to penetrate his purpose, to become more a full and wholesome being versus just this real masculine side, right? And it's so huge. Communication is a big thing that I think a lot of men could invite into their lives.
I'm so glad you brought up communication. There's a lot of our listeners that have resonated with being on a twin flame journey or a high vibrational soul connection journey. And I have covered the topic of twin flames with someone that I consider to be great to share the insight. So Amelia Caddy, I've had on before in the past. And one of the most prominent challenges in that connection, you have runner and chaser, and I resonate with it because it's the journey that actually brought me to awakening, because we all awaken in many different ways. I had a dark night of the soul, but it was triggered by a very long-standing twin flame experience, which I didn't even know it was that, and afterwards in hindsight, I was like, oh my gosh, wow. And this is not easy, and heavy energy to release, a lot to work on. And it's not something romanticized. It's something about going within heavily and really understanding what it is to heal and overcome and enlighten yourself for, so one of the biggest challenges, and a lot of divine feminine say this, and in the communities, because I've, been on this journey for a while, is the communication. The divine masculine may show up, and at times in the journey, he'll show up maybe earlier points in the journey where he's not aware that he has to do a lot of work. So, the twin flames, they get very attracted, and there's this just uncomprehensible kind of feeling, like this attraction, this chemistry on so many levels, so deep, you just want to be around that person, and it's incredible. But then that kind of, if you want to call it a honeymoon period, or that amazing feeling, soon slithers away, because the universe and the divine wants to now show you the mirror of this this other soul came into your life to show you that you have work to do, and you may not like them right now, or you want to run from them, or you don't want to communicate with them, but it's actually an issue with you, not them. They're just showing you the mirror. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel that happens in many connections in life, regardless of twin flame. But just coming back to that, I find that the divine masculine then, in many instances, I've heard many a story from feminines and from my own experience, disappear or avoid communication, even goes to the extreme of blocking, don't pick up the phone, don't respond to messages. And for the feminines, I mean, it's a hard journey, because you're like, what did I do? And then you learn. I mean, you do learn to have a whole new level of compassion. I mean, I didn't even think the type of compassion I was able to grow in myself, the type of patience and understanding in typical society type based relationships that we see on the TV and what they talk about, could never even consider this level of compassion and understanding and patience. So I do think, obviously, it brings out some great qualities for the feminine, but the masculine and his inability to communicate, and I think that's part of control. And I just wanted to throw that out there with you, because there's a lot of feminines listening going, why doesn't my masculine want to talk? Or why doesn't he express? And what's going on? Will we ever have union? Will he ever, it's not about union, because it's union of self first, but will I ever hear from him? So I just wanted to throw that your way and get your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I kind of want to, kind of just rewind a bit in regards to like the twin flame, because I know that that's a huge topic that a lot of people are currently infatuated with. And I'll be completely honest, in full transparency, I feel as if I'm not too familiar with like the word and the implications and the kind of the meanings that come along with that. I'll be truly honest, but there's definitely this one phrase that has crossed my path that I've resonated with at a soul and cellular level, and it's karmic relationships, or karmic ties.
Yeah,
and that really resonates with me, because I know we're speaking about a specific subject, but if we can just kind of flow with me for a moment, these karmic ties are really, really deep, and that may show up a lot in attraction, or in a physical partnership in these what I'm reading in these twin flame journeys. And I think a lot of the time, as you beautifully mentioned, is like these people are showing up into our lives as a sheer mirror for us to then look deeper at the wounding and the gaps and the things that we need to begin to cultivate and marry and massage and heal in our own being. Yeah. And I think that that's such a huge step in the journey, is being able to see this man or this woman as a mirror versus as an attraction. The attraction may be there, or the physical attraction to this being may be there, but what you're really attracted to is the karma that this person is holding for you.
Wow. Yes.
And once you begin, that's a huge thing to even just rewind and play again, is the fact that like you're not attracted to the person's face, you're not attracted to the person's body, you're not attracted to the person's blah blah blah. You're attracted to the karma that is connected to you guys. And once you're able to commit yourself to that unfolding and the unraveling of the karma that's between you, you can actually enter into a beautiful conscious relating with the right person, of course. I know, and we can dabble a bit deeper into these the beautiful women that may be listening that are in partnerships or in this karmic relationship with a man that's not fully conscious and cannot actually hold and honor that conscious relating. And for that, I think it's a different subject. We need to begin to invite into our space as the gentle contemplation is this the right person that you actually want to build a conscious relationship with, if he's not if he or she is not able to hold their own, and that's huge. I mean, these are huge topics.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know we're not going to be able to really thrash through those right now, but I want to go back to the point of karmic contracts. And I agree, twin flame or not, even soulmates. I personally, and I genuinely feel in my heart and soul that each and every one of us, we have a soul contract. And that soul contract has multiple soul contracts with family, friends, soulmates. Soulmates can be family, friends, romantic, everything, even maybe a twin flame, you know, whatever it is. And we agree before coming to this lifetime on earth, because I believe there's multiple lifetimes, that on this lifetime, I want to experience this or clear the karma of this situation, experience being cheated on, experience cheating on someone else. I want to learn those life lessons and level up. I want to know what it is to tell the truth, to become my authentic self. But in order to do that, I must break someone's heart, you know, and in order for their heart to be broken, it's part of their contract to get their heart broken several times for it to open. Like so many exchanges and agreements that, like you said, it's not the attraction of the physical body, but an attraction of karma, agreements at the soul level. And if we can understand that everyone that's in our life shows up as a mirror, and the other point, they show up as a mirror, but if they're supposed to show up, there's a reason for the season and they have to go, let them go.
Exactly.
Allow it to go because it served its purpose. Don't hold on to it. And I think there's a lot of people out here that maybe are struggling to get that and understand because they have kids or they're in marriages. And I was one, you know, I was in a marriage and luckily, you know, I had the guts because the truth does set you free. And like you said, if you're a conscious woman or an awakened woman or man, you know how much work it takes to get there and you're never going to go backwards. So it's sometimes about that judgment call of going, maybe I have to leave these people here and carry on my journey. And I will meet new people on my journey. And that person, friends, whoever they are, will resonate for me on my onward journey. And I have to surrender to what is my journey and what is for my highest and greatest good, right?
100%. Yeah. And that's such a huge topic that I think I even received from a lot of my sisters is the fact that like, it's hard. Like when is this man going to awaken, or when can I have this conscious relating with this man? And I think that's just, it's such a tricky topic for a lot of people to fully stomach, you know, because where I feel as if that comes from, and I think like I mentioned, I received this a lot from like the women and the feminine aspect is like, I would just invite you, and I made a video on this, like I would just invite you to dive deeper into your own heart, into where that's coming from. You know, like why do you feel as if you need to wait for this specific man to become something that you see him to be that he's not ready to be?
Exactly.
And there's great gold hidden in the truth when you allow yourself to allow the truth to penetrate you and pierce through your own, whether it's codependency, whether it's whatever it may be in your body, you know, whatever it may be in your heart, you have to own up to that and really step into your own sovereignty, you know, step into your own zenith, who you truly are, what you know to be true. And I think that comes back down to doing the inner inquiry, the inner work on your own self, because I believe a person that is truly embodied in this higher aspect knows these things at a visceral level. They trust their intuition, they trust their heart, you know. So if these situations are still showing up in your life, that's just only because you're being invited to look deeper inside of yourself, to enter into a deeper level of contemplation.
Absolutely. And I think I want to just add for the listeners, like I've always said this, I was concerned about the twin flame journey because when I first kind of resonated with it, I personally, hands-on, personal experience, could see how it could completely suck you in to this infatuation about it being about another person. And heck no, is it about that? It's all about you, me, right? And when you are able to then have the focus on self and do that work, it is incredible. It's eye-opening. The type of people I've resonated with, you start to meet awakened masculines. I have one right now with me here. Beautiful moment. But you start to align and attract those energies. It's energy at the end of the day. It's not about the person. And I want to say this to my listeners, the community here, because I know there'll be some of your followers here with us right now, that man or female, if you really want to be aligned and in a sacred union with an awakened male or female, ask for the energy, the awakened energy. Don't label it as a person. Do the work on yourself and put the commitment and the intention to work on yourself. And as you work on yourself, you will attract and align to like-minded energy. You will attract that vibration. Don't label it as a person, and see how much magic comes your way. I think if you can release to that, if so much wonder can come from it. So I just wanted to say that, because I think that that's the most important thing when it comes to these high vibrational soul connections.
Beautifully stated. Yeah, that's definitely poetry. And I feel as if like that's the feminine essence that I feel a lot of us are missing, is that deep aspect of trust, patience, and surrender. You know, like those three emanations or word or essences mean a lot to me. You know, like that's the embodiment of the feminine, in my opinion, is a deep trust, a deep sense of patience, and a deep sense of being surrendered, you know, and when you allow yourself to do that in your own life, you know, you allow yourself to see the magic happen. You know, magic is not something that you're doing. It's something that happens to you, you know, as you surrender into it. You know, you don't really need to do anything for that to transpire. And I know that can be a paradox, but it's really magical when you allow yourself to see deeply into this subtle aspect of life, that when you do the work on yourself, you know, all your external reality begins to shift and sort and organize in this very majestic way. You know, it's really, life becomes intoxicating. It becomes a movie, you know, like there's this, I think there's this saying in Hindu, or I could be mistaken, they call it the Great Leela. And what that means is like the divine play, you know, like you begin to see life as a theater, and you're just an actor in the play. And it becomes really intoxicating to see how, you know, God or the divine or the universe begins to just place these people into your life to allow you to level up into a higher aspect of you, versus you falling victim to a person doing something or creating something into your life. It's not an illusion, but it's the deepest level of victimization, and it happens in the most subtle of ways. And when you begin to transcend that level of victimization, whether that's in a person or anything else in your life that's outside of you, you begin to experience what true freedom and liberation is in a body. And it's from that point forward that you don't need a person, a place, or a thing outside of you to make you feel happy and fulfilled and loved inside of yourself. And it's only the interesting thing is it's at that moment that you begin to attract your partner, or attract those people, or attract beautiful connections like us, where it's like life becomes infatuated, becomes intoxicating. You know, it's funny. It's quite funny.
It is, because it so is. The other day I was saying to myself, oh my gosh, like I cannot fault my life right now. Like I cannot fault any of the people, energy, situations that are playing out, because everything that is happening, aligning, attracting to me are beautiful moments. I was at a retreat the other day in the south of England, in Devon, a very beautiful place, in 80 acres of countryside. And this was not intended to be a female only retreat. It was for male and females. It so happened that there wasn't any men there. And that wasn't a bad thing, but it then became a very divine feminine healing moment. And every single one of the females there, and shout them out because they might be listening right now, they all brought a very special gift with them. And I felt I was so healed by this collective energy. We would chant in the morning and in the evening. We were learning Ayurvedic yoga, massage treatment. So from a special divine feminine from India who created this 30 years ago, Kusum Modak, and her story is just empowering. So learning her therapy, and then being with these women, that wasn't planned, Justin. Really wasn't. Like, yes, it was to some extent. We knew we were going on this journey. We didn't know who we were going to meet. And I created so many soulful connections, and the beautiful energy and the sacred space we cultivated, and were able to share our emotions, be vulnerable, connect with nature. So that in itself was true magic. And I came back and I was full of life. And even being back now, it's just everything's happening. Like, I'm here with you. And then tomorrow I'm meeting someone I've never met before, but we just, like, you're talking about everything that actually I need to talk to you about this. And I'm so grateful. And you want to share, and I'm not even having to control, force, maneuver this to happen. It's just happening. Yeah.
Wow. That's so beautiful. And I also feel called to gonna just chat a little bit further about like that sisterhood, like there's something really magical that happens when sisters allow themselves to gather in a sacred way, and commune with each other in that reverential field and that auric field that's created through that connectivity. I think that thread of reverence in the way that we maneuver through the world in a group, in unity is something that's really lacking, and that can be also reversed into the other end of the masculine side. And that's something I'm extremely passionate about at this moment, because I think the more that we begin to heal, myself as a man, I begin to become a reference point for other men that may be listening to this, or through the Instagram posts where my sisters are sharing these beautiful essences, these words, and they're watching. These men are watching. They're watching my videos. They're watching these other men that are also awakened, not just me. But we begin to become reference points for them to then step deeper into their authenticity, into their truth, into their sovereignty, into their freedom, into their own divine masculine. And we just need more warriors. We need more lovers. We need more of these embodied individuals to step deeper into their truth, so that we can all become reference points and just literally pull and walk each other home deeper and deeper into our own essence. And that's what's happening right now. And that's why I'm infatuated with this work. Is that's how we change the world, is by changing ourselves, and then people follow.
Yeah, I love the way you said walking each other back home, because there is no leader. We're here. We're all just walking back. And, someone might be, oh, I'm over here. Doesn't mean I'm any better, but I can show you how to get to this part. And then you're going to show me how to get to that part. And we help each other share some wisdom, share experience. And I think it's knowing that you're not alone. Yes, you have to do all the work on self. But the song, Michael Jackson's song, sorry, I have to say it, You Are Not Alone, has been something that has come to me several times in the last year. And I've just sat there and cried and felt so deeply moved by that song, because it's like me and my connection to the divine saying, you're not alone. Like, we got you. The divine, the archangels, spirit guides, ancestors, we've got you. And there are also energies here on earth that have got you too. Do the work on yourself. Don't be afraid to step into your truth, and you will be divinely supported and guided as well. So I'm so happy to have you here. And I know we could talk so much more, but I wanted to just allow you to say some final words to especially our Divine Masculine community as well. I know that we can find you at justintristao.com, Justin Tristao on IG, and you host events on breathwork. But is there any kind of final words or messages that you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, it was just such an honor to dance with you through our own poetry and through this language. My prayer and my intention weaving this through this message is that people just open their hearts up to receive, to receive the depth of truth of who we truly are. Life can be so much more simple and majestic and enjoyable when we begin to just turn that love back inwards. And the moment that we allow ourselves to fill our own cup up with the love, with our gratitude, with that healing, we then begin to allow that overflowing cup to flow into our relationships and the world and our purpose and our jobs and what we do for a living and everything around us. The world begins to just become this natural yeah, just this natural flow of love, you know, and love just begins to take over you, and it just takes you deeper and deeper until you're intoxicated with your own love. You know, it's quite, you know, I know that sounds kind of poetic and mystical, but it really becomes that way, you know, and it, yeah, words begin to become hard to describe at that aspect when you begin to live your life from your heart, you know, and I think that's what humanity is asking for, is for us to just return back to our heart and live from that space of compassion, of love. And yeah, that's my message. And as far as finding me, I think you did a beautiful job. I'm currently in mid transition of amping my offerings and my websites and landing pages and things like that. So the best way to stay connected with me at the moment is just to follow me on Instagram, which is at Justin Tristao. And yeah, I have a lot of beautiful things. I have different retreats that are coming up, workshops, so many good things. So yeah, just stay tuned with that.
Most definitely. I will be sharing all of your information, the events as they come through. And I couldn't agree more. Love is the answer. It's the highest vibration of all. And it is back to our heart space, open heart space, that we can connect with each other and make this universe a better place for each and every one of us. Thank you so much, Justin. Thank you. I'm very grateful for having you here.
Thank you. It's an honor. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.